The lack of official world ranking points has been the Achilles heel of an otherwise successful start to life for LIV Golf. But after pleading with the ranking body for almost a year, it seems like Greg Norman might just be finally getting his wish fulfilled very soon. In today's video, we're gonna talk about a new hope for LIV and how far the league's golfers fell in the OWGR in 2022. So keep watching. First off, LIV gets a subtle hint from the OWGR. 2022 was the year of the breakaway league. After all, not only did it manage to actually stand up against the PGA Tour, but it also established itself as one of the key players in the sport. But while the circuit's inaugural season can't be labeled as anything but a success, it's still got a lot of issues preventing it from truly cementing itself as a true rival to the Tour. The league's lack of world ranking points, for instance, has been a major problem for Greg Norman and his team, so much that they've written multiple letters to the ranking body asking to be recognized. Not to mention, they've also tried integrating themselves with the Middle East and North African Tour, just so their golfers could remain relevant in the global standings. That said, the OWGR has got pretty strict criteria for allowing ranking points, and well, LIV's quote-unquote revolutionary formula doesn't really match any of it. So, they're sort of stuck in this limbo world right now, because if you really want to be a mainstream tour in the game, you need ranking points to legitimize you. Now, it looks like all hope isn't lost just as yet. In a new development, the ranking body has actually granted a license to another tour with a structure that's not too different from LIV Golf. Yep, looks like approval for the OWGR might be on the cards for the breakaway circuit after all. And this, of course, will be music to the ears of all Saudi League fans and players. Up next, OWGR approval can take a long time. The thing with the ranking body is that it's got a lot of conditions that you've got to fulfill to become a part of it. And those include things like having a 72-hole event with 36-hole cut and a field that's got more than 75 players. If you look at LIV, however, you'll realize that its format doesn't cover either of these points. After all, there are no cuts in the league. Plus, their total player count isn't near the 75-player mark either. Here's the interesting thing though. The new tour that the OWGR has just approved doesn't meet those requirements either. Well, sorta. In its official statement, the ranking body underlines its process for the approval of a Mexican development tour, the Gira de Golf Profesional de Mexicana. Now, this tour has only been around for 5 years and has just been recognized by the authority. That said, apparently, it actually took them around 16 months to get the approval, which means we could see some movement for the breakaway league too. After all, their pursuit of the OWGR doesn't even go back a full year, so perhaps if they waited for a few more months, maybe the ranking body will get around to their application too. Not to mention, there's a lot that goes into the inquiries and all the investigation needed for approval. Then again, we're not sure if even that would be enough for LIV Golf to fully qualify, because there are a couple of other fascinating tidbits in the statement. Now for why LIV Golf could still miss out on OWGR approval. We've talked about the Mexican Development Tour getting recognized by the ranking body, but why would that be a sign for LIV? Well, for starters, its tournaments have only 54 holes in them, kinda like the breakaway league. What's more, the Mexican Tour's also got a season-ending championship without any cuts. That being said, the rest of the events do come with 36-hole cuts, which is a very important distinction. You see, the whole philosophy behind the OWGR model is to reward competitiveness within the sport by promoting good golfers in the world leaderboards. Makes sense, right? LIV players, however, don't exactly experience the same level of competition as everyone else, because at the end of the day, there are no cuts in his league format. So, say someone like Mickelson plays really badly at an event, what happens then? Well, nothing. He just loses and goes home with bags of money. Seriously, since there are no cuts, there's no risk of elimination, which means the ranking points, if granted, would be a bit skewed as compared to the other tours too. So, even if the Mexican Tour is similar to LIV in terms of its lower hole count, it's at least still got a cut. In fact, the authorities even mention it explicitly in its statement. So yeah, while this may have sparked some extra hope in Norman's camp, the skies continue to look dreary for his league. Not to mention, LIV Golf is not a development tour. Alright, let's take off our negative Nancy glasses for a second and look at things from a more positive angle. Let's say that the thing with the cuts doesn't matter to the OWGR at all, and it's willing to grant ranking points to anyone who's vaguely similar to the Mexican Tour. What then? Would the breakaway league suddenly fulfill the criteria? Well, even when we go down that route, we're bound to hit another dead end because, yep, the criteria applied to the Mexican Tour doesn't apply to the LIV Golf at all. Yeah, if you go and look at the official requirements from the OWGR, there's a line in fine print that essentially says that they've got exemptions for development tours. And guess what the Mexican Tour is? A development tour. Why do they get the exemption and LIV doesn't though? Well, it's got something to do with the fact that they're the ones incubating all the young talent, which usually comes in abundance. And when you've got such a massive pool of players to choose from, then you've got to make adjustments to the format to suit both time time and budgetary constraints. Not to mention, when the tour's whole purpose is to prep players for their larger counterparts, and then those bigger tours also lobby for these smaller entities, giving them some extra legitimacy. The Saudi League, however, just doesn't have that sort of luxury, so instead, it's just gonna have to continue prodding away. Moving on, how far did LIV golfers fall in the OWGR standings? First up, LIV golf members could lose major qualifications. Now, we don't expect this whole ranking points drama to be over anytime soon. In fact, if things continue like this could carry over all the way into 2024 as well. And the only people who'd suffer because of it are gonna be, well, the players. You see, even though LIV golf members have talked about how the rankings don't matter in the grand scheme of things and all that, the truth is that all pro golfers need these points to compete. After all, if you fall out of the top 50, then you essentially lose your automatic qualification to major events. So there's definitely a degree of panic that's about to set in sooner rather than later as all these golfers watch their rankings drop just because they've got no way of earning any points. In fact, a lot of LIV's earlier signings, like Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson, have gone a whole year without earning these points, making them the biggest losers. Johnson, for instance, started 2022 off in a lofty 15th position. These days, he's lingering around number 41, which is a pretty massive decline of 26 positions. That said, he's also earned over $35 million in this period just from the prize money. And of course, this is on top of the massive $125 million contract. So who's the real winner here? Coming up, the decline could continue for a while. Now, obviously, some golfers lost more than others, depending on when they joined. Cam Smith, for instance, is perhaps the league's biggest signing yet. But since he only signed the deal after the PGA Tour season was virtually over, he hasn't lost out much at all. In fact, he started 2022 at number 2 and has only dropped down to 3rd, with Rory McIlroy's rise to the top spot. Though, there are other top stars who need to start worrying about their future. Take Bryson DeChambeau. He's one of the best players in the league, and yet, in the span of a year, he's gone down from 28 to 67, pushing him out of that coveted top 50 spot. Not to mention, Brooks Koepka, Paul Casey, and Patrick Reed also followed suit by dropping out of the top 50. Another interesting thing, if you compare all the rankings, you'll see that most players have dropped by around 30 to 40 places, which sounds about right, considering it's only been a year with no points. That said, we also have golfers who've actually dropped down by over 100 places. No, seriously. And of course, the biggest name that sticks out from that list is Phil Mickelson, who started at number 72, but is now sitting at 213 thanks to his bad performances at major events in 2022. What's more, Eugenio Lopez Chacarra, who joined the league right as he turned pro and even won an event, dropped by 1,257 places, finishing the year at 3,061. But that's because he never had any substantial OWGR points in the first place. Finally, some players still managed to gain positions. No, seriously, we're not kidding. Despite not earning a single point throughout the year, some LIV golf members still managed to actually gain some places on the OWGR rankings list. Adrian Otaegui, for example, went from 165 all the way to 73 in the span of a year. Or James Piot, who was also an amateur before joining, went from 1751 to 1515. That being said, the only reason why they gained places was that they took part in other OWGR sanctioned events that allowed them to move up. Still, it's a very fascinating bunch of players moving up and down the order, which, of course, has brought a ton of uncertainty to the golfing landscape too. They, however, would just be hoping to get this issue resolved ASAP so they could just focus on their golf instead. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think LIV golf players deserve official world golf ranking points? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.